It appears that suspicions about NBA star Zion Williamson's relationship with the New Orleans Pelicans began the day he was picked, and they haven't seemed to stop since then. In some respects, the Pelicans' success this season has done little to quiet them. After making a postseason run without Williamson, a new question has arisen. Is he even necessary for this team? Or will he be traded out this offseason? Here's everything you need to know.
But first, a reminder about our brand new giveaway. We're giving away a PS5 with a copy of NBA 2K22 and Madden 22. All you have to do is watch the full video, leave a like, comment the keyword hidden in the video, and make sure you're subscribed. It's that simple.
First things first, seeing Zion Williamson move to the New York Knicks could be a potentially amazing trade. Zion Williamson has quickly become a star within the NBA, with many teams wanting Williamson on their team. But following his injury that saw him out for practically the entire last season, is he really all that he's cracked up to be? He's currently drafted with the New Orleans Pelicans, and they're unlikely to try to move him unless he really demands a trade. His potential at this point in his career has no limits. He's truly getting better and better with each passing year, except the last year. Moving on the other hand, could be justified from the Pelicans' perspective. Why? Well, his availability is nevertheless a source of concern. It's impossible to believe that he'll ever be free of health difficulties, and a potential second injury this upcoming season could be enough for them to let him go. If the Pelicans moved on now, they could be able to sell for a very high price. Someone will be ready to take a large risk on a player who averaged 27.0 points per game, while also shooting a 64.5% in 61 games in 2020-2021. Isn't it impressive? If the front office is considering it, these are the three Crazy Zion Williamson's trades we'd like to see this summer. So the first potential trade on our list for Williamson is the New York Knicks. Now, this would mean the Pelicans would need to trade him, but for whom? Well, the New Orleans Pelicans may be unwilling to bring Julius Randle back to the team. However, if he's bringing 6 first-round picks and/or pick swaps, they might feel otherwise. Still, the Pels' draft capital is at stake in this transaction. They'd have almost as much as their competitors, Oklahoma City Thunder, if they made it. Only the Pelicans would be in a very good spot competitively. Winning games while accumulating the league's second-most draft capital would put them in a fantastic position. They'd most likely want to package those picks in exchange for a disgruntled, non-chronically wounded star replacement for Williamson as soon as possible. On the other hand, the New York Knicks are taking a significant risk here, to say the least, giving up control of their draft from now until 2027 for a player who can't remain healthy is risky. On the other hand, if Williamson can reverse his injury luck, it could very well be worth it. His ceiling is once again infinite if he can remain injury-free. If the Knicks pair him with former Duke teammates R.J. Barrett and Cam Reddish, theirs may be as well. Next up, a potential trade with the Atlanta Hawks. The next potential trade we would love to see is the New Orleans Pelicans receiving John Collins in a trade with the Atlanta Hawks, where they receive Zion Williamson. The Pelicans would exchange a future superstar power forward for a possible all-star power forward in this transaction. Obviously, this is a step back, but there are two very compelling reasons to do so. The first is self-evident: the selections. Due to Collins' substantially lower ceiling, the Hawks compensate the Pelicans here. Collins' availability is the second factor. Not that his record is without flaws. Collins hasn't been able to play in 70 games in the NBA since his debut season in 2017-18. On the other side, he's been available for at least 40 in each of the last 2 years. Unfortunately, Williamson is a candidate to miss the full season at any time. It's unclear whether that pattern will continue in his career. The Pelicans could cut their losses and acquire a solid player to complement the rest of their core in this deal. The Hawks, for their part, appear set on dumping Collins in order to acquire a second star to complement Trae Young. If Zion stays healthy, they'll be able to achieve all of their objectives. It's a risk-reward potential trade, that's for sure. They'll be sorry if Williamson stays a liability. If he does it right, it will appear to be one of their most valuable players. Last but not least, a trade with the Orlando Magic could be awesome for both the Pelicans and Zion. A trade between the New Orleans Pelicans and Orlando Magic could be a potentially great trade for both teams. The Pelicans would receive Jonathan Isaac, and in return, the Orlando Magic receive Williamson. The Pelicans could exchange their former first-round pick for the ability to select first overall in the NBA draft once again this upcoming season. With this kind of trade, the Pelicans are likely to add one of Chet Holmgren, Paolo Banchero, or Jabari Smith Jr. Banchero would be an immediate Williamson replacement, while Holmgren or Smith Jr. would immediately boost the team's floor spacing and defense. Meanwhile, Jonathan Isaac isn't just a cameo. While he's had his own health issues during his career, he's been a top running spot for the Defensive Player of the Year nominee when he's been healthy. Now, speaking of the Magic, they haven't had a player with a star star power of Williamson on their roster since at least Dwight Howard, if not Shaquille O'Neal. If Williamson can stay healthy, he has a chance to put this team back on the map. That's a big if. The Magic's risk tolerance may not be high enough to consider this deal. At the same time, they may be unable to turn it down. But what do you think? Which potential trade for Williamson and the Pelicans makes the most sense? Or will Williamson decide that he really wants to remain with his current New Orleans team? We'll certainly find out soon. Now, let's take a look at Zion and his injury timeline and what this means for him going forward. Zion Williamson is still out for the Pelicans as he heals from a right foot injury, but he's making progress towards a possible return next season. Williamson had been recuperating with a former LSU strength coach in Oregon, but rejoined the team in April and was cleared to resume basketball activities. Williamson is yet to play for the Pelicans this season as he recovers from off-season foot surgery. The team reported back on November 26, 2021, that he had been cleared to engage in full team activities, but he was suspended from basketball activities again a few days later. The Pelicans then stated on December 16th that Williamson would be re-evaluated in 4 to 6 weeks after having an injection on his right foot. On January 5th, 2022, the Pelicans announced that Williamson was continuing his rehab on his damaged foot away from the club. Then on March 5th, the Pelicans announced that Williamson had returned to the team from his rehab in Portland, Oregon, and that he had been cleared to resume basketball exercises. This was the first good news we'd heard about Williamson this season. But on March 21st, there was more bad news. According to The Athletic, Williamson was not anticipated to return to play this season, which we now know to be true because it's now the off-season, and we've yet to see Williamson shine. So this begs the question, how many games has he actually played, and is he worth being traded? Well, Williamson has appeared in 85 games in the past 3 NBA seasons, since being drafted first overall by the Pelicans in the 2019 NBA Draft. Despite his limited playing time this past season, Williamson has played in more games than previous #1 overall choice Greg Oden did in his first 3 seasons in the NBA. He's also played in more games than Joel Embiid did in his first 3 seasons with the team. Williamson, who's only 21 years old, has a long runway to return to the court and have a successful career that lives up to the hype. But what would his future look like if he remained with the Pelicans? Well, Williamson could very well earn up to $195 million or 276 million Australian over the course of a 5-year contract extension. If the contract includes a bonus for making the All-Star NBA team next season, the extension could be worth $234 million or 331 million Australian. At the present moment, Williamson has been very vocal about wanting to remain where he is currently. However, this doesn't mean that the Pelicans feel the same way. He could very well be traded this offseason, especially if he isn't at his 100% still following his injury. Imagine the Pelicans having him sit out for another season. That could dramatically impact their performance and chances of making it to the top. Only time will tell where he lands, but keep an eye on this space to find out any important updates. And there you have it, everything you need to know about some potential crazy Zion Williamson trades, along with details surrounding his injury and what this means for his NBA future. Make sure to let us know your thoughts down below.